Welcome to The Beauty Shift, proudly sponsored by Karenique.
For thicker, fuller hair at every age and every stage of a woman's life.
I'm Michelle Phillips.
I'm a celebrity stylist and beauty expert, a national TV personality, and self-confidence coach. And over the years, I've worked with some of the most recognized faces in the world, helping them look and feel their absolute best inside and out.
That ultimate inner outer wow. Now that's true beauty, my friends.
I'm super excited to introduce you to a very incredible man, Dr. Cesar Lara, today. I am so happy to have him here joining my podcast because so many of us struggle with weight loss. How do we lose weight? How do we keep it off once we lose weight? And there's just so many different types of diet pills, injectables, diet programs, exercise programs. What actually works? Dr. Lara is a true healer. And I can say that from my heart because I've known this man for a very long time, maybe 15 years. He is gifted with an ability to connect with patients on a deeper level and understand the root cause of their problems. And he has helped transform thousands of patients through his award-winning weight loss programs. Today, Dr. Lara is going to show you why all of those diets, pills, and exercise routines maybe haven't worked for you, and how you can finally break free from the weight loss block that's been holding you back for good. Plus, we're going to explore cutting-edge tools like semaglutide and Form Nouvelle laser sculpting to boost your progress. Before we get started, I want to encourage you to turn off any distractions, and you may even want to take notes, because this information could completely transform your health and energy levels. Think about this. You've tried countless diets, workout plans, even weight loss pills, but nothing has worked long term. You're tired of the yo-yo dieting and feeling like you're always starting over. You want to understand how tools like semaglutide can help you. And you want a holistic, physician-led, proven system to lose weight and keep it off. Sound good to you? I figured. So let's get started and bring into the mix Dr. Cesar Lara. Welcome, Dr. Lara. This is so much fun having you here today.
Well, it's my pleasure to be here. It's so wonderful to have an opportunity to share some of my perspectives with you today, and more importantly, to share with your beautiful audience of people who you have been so instrumental in helping guide in so many facets of their lives. So I feel really honored to be here sharing these words with you today.
I'm honored as well. I think we met 15 years ago when I was hosting a morning talk show in Tampa, Florida. It was a CBS station, and you were a frequent guest. We loved you at the show because you have such a unique approach, a holistic approach to medicine, which back then was fairly new. There wasn't as much, talk about really how our mindset affects our health. And so I just loved how you tied in our mental well-being and our emotional state with becoming healthy, and your specialty as a board certified physician for over, I think, 30 years.
Yes.
Your specialty is weight loss, obesity medicine, as well as bioidentical hormones. And you also have a wellness center, a healing center, which that's like a whole nother show. I can't wait to do a show on that as well. I think that's what really even drew me to you, because as a Hay House author, you were one of the first people when I got the book deal with Louise Hay to come
Yes.
out and speak to your patients, because you really feel this is so important, that if we want to lose weight, if we want to really help balance our hormones in our bodies, we have to stop and think about just our mindset and our daily routines, right?
Absolutely. Looking back in my history as a physician over the last, I think it's now 33 years since I left my residency. I became a board certified family physician. That was my first step. And in as a family physician, you learn to integrate the multiple systems, right? So, but as medicine progressed, all of a sudden you need to see the neurologist for this. You need to see the gastroenterologist for that. You need to see the cardiologist for that. And so, overall, people began to become segmented aspects of themselves. And so I think part of my training, from a spiritual perspective, has been the fact that I was a family physician and my interest was in really helping people wanting to become healthy. But within the context of that Western medicine model, instead of getting better, it got progressively worse. So that before you knew it, we were basically managers of chronic diseases.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're basically the manager of a chronic disease, that means you're not getting rid of the chronic disease. That means that the process is, how do you manage these chronic diseases, and create a maintenance process for them to be able to be facilitated. And so it really distorted the whole experience. And so jumping into a weight loss perspective and being able to understand that at the end of the day, we are what we eat. And it's such a simple understanding, because you can look back to your grandmother and your great grandmother. And these are things that are not something that I invented. These are things that I basically recognized and brought into practice. And so being able to be in the field of bariatrics, and I call it medical bariatrics as opposed to surgical bariatrics, right? Surgical bariatrics is the gastric bypasses, where we're trying to change your anatomy so that you can achieve a different outcome. But medical bariatrics is understanding that, what can we do to facilitate the process to help your body become healthy, so that you can get rid of the conditions that are associated with diabetes, with obesity, which are diabetes, heart disease, osteoarthritis. In other words, there's typically something like 100 different types of diseases that are all connected to the obesity epidemic. And so being in the field of nutrition and being in the field of helping people release the excess weight, decrease the inflammation, gave me the opportunity to, for the very first time, to get rid of diabetes, to get rid of heart disease, to get rid of hypertension, to get rid of high cholesterol, to improve the mindset of people feeling better about themselves. So for me, it's really been a beautiful journey of awakening as a human being and as a professional in the field of medicine.
I absolutely love that. And it's just that is why your clients have such success. And that is not typical of people who are wanting to lose weight. I've heard you say over 50% of people lose weight and then they gain it right back,
Yes.
because we're not changing our habits. We're not changing our mental state of mind. So when we lose weight, we're like, yay. And then we just go right back to where we were and we're back at it again. It becomes a vicious cycle. So how do you help your clients when they come to you, your patients, when they come to you? What's the first step?
The first step is always to begin to understand the story that each patient has for themselves, right? So let's assume two different people are coming to release 30 pounds or 50 pounds. And also, just as a note there, uh, I want to point that I don't use the word lose.
I
I
was just going to say that. You always use the word release. I
release.
love
Yes,
this.
yes. Because everything is connected to the way that we perceive things. And so if we want to change the perception of our lives, want to change the reality of our lives, then we need to start changing the definition of how we see ourselves. And so releasing is a more progressive understanding, that we recognize that there's something that we want to let go, we want to release. When you lose something, you always tend to find it back, or it finds you back. And so from a
Mm.
mental perspective, it begins the process of creating the perspective on the individual that's in that journey to begin to see themselves outside of the norms of I'm a victim, I've had this weight all my life and I seem to lose it and then I gain it and I just don't know what I'm doing. Maybe it's my genetics, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. And so people come with this perspective of they have no control over it. So one of the ways we begin to reflect that control back onto them is to begin to change the way they perceive that aspect of it. But the primary aspect in any programs or changes that I bring forth as a guide to my patients is to first and foremost become a listener. You need to truly be tuned to that individual's understanding of themselves. And so I ask a simple question. I know they're at my office for weight loss because it's big signs out there that says, you know, weight loss practice. And so I know people are there, but I always ask them, how can I help you today? Why are you here? And what I'm really trying to do is not to make any assumptions that I know that, oh, you just ate too much, didn't exercise enough, and therefore you got this problem. Don't worry, I'm going to give you a quick fix. Eat less, exercise more, and see you. You know, that doesn't work.
Mm-mm.
And so the biggest challenge in obesity is to begin to understand that we have the power to change our story. And so, in order for me to help someone change their story, I need to first understand their story.
Right.
And so it goes something like this. So, tell me a little bit about uh, how your story is in reference to your weight and your health and your, your overall story as best as you can in the next 10, 15 minutes. And so, an individual will start, well, I've had weight problems all my life. Other times they'll say something like, well, I never had any weight problems until I got the divorce, until this happened, until that happened. And so you begin to understand the circumstances of what is happening. And in the process of that, I also begin to capture how they perceive themselves. So many times I will have somebody that says, oh, I hate it. Just get rid of this thing and I'll be happy. Is there any pill that you can give me to make it go away? And then
Mm-hmm.
immediately I recognize that that person has a disconnection from their beauty, from their essence, from their healthiness, because they see themselves as not being good enough. Right.
Yes.
And so it really
Huge.
begins to shift that understanding. And so for me, the most important thing at the beginning is to gather an understanding, to develop a rapport where that individual feels on that first visit that I understand you. And I'm not a God. I'm not somebody that's going to give you a pill that's going to fix you. I'm here to help guide you so that you can literally begin to transform yourself. And so this journey that you're about to take is not just a journey in the physical sense. It's actually a journey within the context of your own spirituality. In the context of your own awareness. And more importantly, it's an opportunity for you to awaken the best aspects of yourself.
Mm.
And so we begin that journey from that perspective. And that sets the tone of everything else that comes. Because as much as I utilize supplements, as much as I utilize state of the art technology, as much as I utilize a lot of tools that facilitate an adjustment, what I cannot do is give you a new brain. And so we need to work with your brain and your understanding and your definitions of yourself so that we can begin to shift them
Yes.
and begin to change it. And if we can shift the way that you perceive yourself, if we can shift the way that you communicate with yourself, you literally have reinvented that aspect of yourself into the best aspect of yourself.
When they're on a program to improve their health, they excel so much quicker because they're changing their mindset. And
Yes.
so that's why I love what you're doing and what you have been doing for many years, because I feel as a society, we've turned to quick fixes and band-aiding the situation, and then we never feel like we're healthy. We never feel like we're whole. Just having those tools that you offer, your patients is just a game changer. We do want to get to some of the tools that people are really talking about right now, especially the semaglutide. A lot of people that I know are on the fence about semaglutide, or they have tried it, but they have done it without a physician's care, which is very dangerous. Can you talk about how you feel semaglutide is not a bad thing? It's a good thing if it's used as a tool, but what are some of the things that we need to be aware of?
Before the semaglutide came into the market over the last 3 4 years, um, we have had a obesity epidemic. Okay,
Yes.
and right now that obesity epidemic looks something like 40% of our population is overweight or obese. Okay, and so it's a huge amount.
Yeah.
Oh, our children are now having significant obesity. One third of students that are in kindergarten or in fifth grade will tend to have obesity already as a permanent progressive disorder.
Mm.
So the challenges have been there, and I like to look at semaglutide as simply a tool that can help us change behavior. Okay. But it's not the quick fix. And unfortunately, bringing attention a little bit to what you shared about the quick fixes, I think if we have been indoctrinated in our society over the many years, definitely for at least the last 50 years, to continue to rely more and more on the Western model of therapy, which basically says something like this: you have a blood pressure problem. Don't worry, eat a little bit less salt, and here's a little blood pressure pill. Oh, you have a headache. Here you go. You can't sleep. Here you go. So, what are we doing? We're basically creating and not only that, a person will come in with a runny nose, a little cough. I need an antibiotic. People ask for
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Now
Not
they have,
good.
this is the only country that I'm aware of that is an advanced country where you actually have the pharmaceutical companies advertising in prime time so that you know what's the newest drug for rheumatoid arthritis, what's the newest drug for depression, what's the newest drug for this, so you can go to your doctor and says, I want this.
Yeah.
Okay. And so we're all looking for something to fix us that's on the outside. And,
Band-Aid.
and
Yeah.
so from my perspective, this is where I've come to have a different perspective. And that's not saying anything horrible about the outside, because sometimes something from the outside can facilitate a process and change, but we cannot depend on that to fix us. And with obesity, it's a chronic condition. And the obesity epidemic didn't come about simply because you are deficient in semaglutide. There
Mhm.
is no semaglutide in your gut. That's not a naturally occurring substance. So the semaglutide is not your fix. The semaglutide is nothing more than a tool that can help you adjust your behavior and be able to achieve the changes that you want in your life, so that at some point down the line, you can get rid of the semaglutide and be able to maintain your healthiness on your own.
Right.
Now, the pharmaceutical company, the Western model of science that we kind of follow, that is very pharmaceutically pushed, tends to say, look, we got a quick fix here. All you need to do is get a semaglutide, and then you're going to drop the 30 pounds. And you hear people all over saying, oh, I got a semaglutide. Look how great it is. You know, you have advertisements. Oh, I dropped 30 pounds. And look, I feel so much better. Can you get off the semaglutide? No. Now you are a lifelong semaglutide consumer. And guess who's laughing their way to the bank?
Yep.
At your cost, because they're not fixing the problem that you have now depended on them fixing for you. They're just maintaining you at that level.
Right.
And so my approach in my practice is, before the semaglutide came into practice, we were helping people release 30 pounds, 50 pounds, 100 pounds, 10 pounds, whatever it was, utilizing other tools that were available and that are still available in today. The semaglutide definitely has come about to become easier because you don't have to take it every day. You can just take it once a week.
Mm.
So it's a simple way of receiving it. You don't. If you wake up at 3 in the morning, you're not going to be hungry. If you wake up at 8 in the morning, you're not going to be hungry. And so that injection that you receive once a week can actually facilitate a decrease of the hunger, because it basically works with the glucagon peptide, which is what decreases the hunger naturally in our body, and it stimulates it so that it becomes as an agonist, so that it actually helps decrease the hunger. So it's definitely helpful. But the challenge is, if you're not doing something actively to take advantage of that decreasing hunger,
Right.
what's going to happen? I've seen a lot of people who basically, instead of eating a whole hamburger, they cut back to just a half a hamburger. Instead of eating 3 pieces of pizza, they just eat 1 piece of pizza.
Mhm.
Instead of eating 2 pieces of toast, they'll just have 1 piece of toast. So what you're doing is just decreasing the caloric intake. So as you continue to decrease the caloric intake, that's going to take you to a certain point. And then your metabolism will decrease. And then you'll begin to increase slowly, because your body begins to say, I'm used to eating less.
Ah.
And the problem is, once you take the semaglutide away, now there's nothing stopping you. So instead of the half a burger, you go back to a whole burger. And instead of 2 pieces of pizza, you go back to 4 pieces of pizza. And so nothing has happened to truly change the aspect of yourself that caused the problem to begin with. So my understanding and my intention is to help individuals facilitate a change in their behavior, a change in their mindset, beginning to really look at their lives and say, I need to let go of the way that I have been,
Mm.
and this is how I want to be. And in order for you to achieve what you want, you must let go of all that stuff that no longer serves you, which means that it is not about eating half a burger, it's about getting rid of the bun. It's about getting rid of the bread. It's about getting rid of all the foods that literally come with all kinds of chemicals. Otherwise, what you're doing is just decreasing the amount of calories. Chemicals are still vibrant in all the foods that you eat. And there's a key word that is brought to my mind, and that is mitochondria. The mitochondria are the engines in every single cell in your body. And obesity is a mitochondrial disease. And unless we're actually shifting how our mitochondria are creating energy and what we're feeding them, then ultimately all that we're creating is a progressive deterioration of our health. So for me, I think semaglutide is a good tool when utilized in a program that facilitates your ability to change yourself, to adjust your behavior, more importantly, to change your mindset, to begin to appreciate and love yourself. If you cannot shift to those patterns of frequency that allow you to shift to the reality that you want to experience, then you're going to be stuck dependent on something that ultimately is going to have its limits. And ultimately, we don't know what side effects it's going to have 10 years from now,
Yeah,
because
that's
it's
the
too
scary
too
thing.
early. So for me, is it's an option, is not the answer. It's a tool that could facilitate an opportunity, but is not the answer to what we're looking for. The answer to that we're looking for lies inside of us. And
Mhm.
my intention is to awaken that from within you, to help you awaken that, so that you can begin to step into the best aspect of yourself and realize that you do not need semaglutide for the rest of your life, that you can actually get rid of diabetes, that you can actually live a life of lots of energy, where you feel good in all of the relationships around you, where you can literally appreciate the greens that you eat, where you appreciate the meats that you're eating because they're coming from good sources, where you can get rid of the seed oils, where you can get rid of all of these pesticides and food colorings and
Mhm.
all the chemicals that are literally put into our food, that are part of the obesity.
Yes.
Because how many people do you know that say, oh, I cut my calories. I'm only eating 1,200 calories. I ate a little bar. I eat a little this. I eat a little that. But they're not releasing. They get to a point where they no longer release. And not only that, but they feel awful.
Right.
because they have no energy,
Yes.
right?
And their body's holding on to it because they're not getting any nutrients. I mean, I've learned so much from working with you for so many years that it's about your nutrition
Yes.
as well as your mindset. And I also want to point out something that you said, which I think is very, very important for us all to think about, is that for how many years, 20 some years, you have had patients lose 20, 30, 50, 100 pounds over and over and over again without the semaglutide and the drugs. And so this, yes, is good in a way that many people are utilizing it to overcome this obesity epidemic, but it's not going to work if it's just the semaglutide that's taken, which is why it's important that people go to a physician such as yourself that really looks at this whole holistic process and practices it, so that way we all say, okay, it's not just what we're eating, it's how we're thinking, it's our lifestyle, it's what I'm going to
Yes.
quote you, healthy weight for life. This
Yes.
is something that this is your mantra,
Yes.
because healthy weight is something you want forever. This shouldn't be an up and down yo-yo anymore. And it won't be when you're working with Dr. Lara. I know from my own experience, as well as lots of people who I know who work with you and go to you, it's that this is about, you have a system that not only supports you through the process of losing weight, but you also have a system that for 6 months after you lose the weight, you continually work with people to support them to make sure that they are on their path to healthy weight for life, that this is a
Yes.
successful partnership. This is not, and spending money on semaglutide and all these other things. I mean, what a waste of money if you're not having someone properly guide you to learn how to change your life. I think a lot of us invest money in ourselves and how we feel and how we look, but is it really a long-term thing? I just want to take a quick moment to thank our amazing sponsor, Keranique, the go-to brand for women's hair growth solutions. If you're looking for healthier, thicker, more beautiful hair, no matter what hair concerns you have, Keranique has got you covered. Their products are clinically proven and dermatologist recommended, offering a complete hair care system, including treatments, shampoos, conditioners, and supplements to help you achieve stronger, fuller looking hair from the inside out. So whether you're starting your hair regrowth journey or maintaining gorgeous, healthy locks, Keranique has a solution for you. And as a Beauty Shift listener, you get 25% off site-wide. All you have to do is head over to store.keranique.com and use the code BeautyShift25 at checkout. Thanks again, Keranique, for supporting the Beauty Shift and helping women everywhere feel confident and beautiful. So now let's get back to the show.
And one of the things that you will find in a lot of individuals who are using semaglutide without appropriate guidance from an individual that understands nutrition, that understands behavior, that understands, because there's a lot of people who are definitely looking at this as an economic boost, right? Hey,
Yeah.
I can make X amount, hey, if I can sell 100 prescriptions of this a month, in other words, it becomes the incentive, unfortunately, in our medical system is economic incentive, right? That's
Mhm.
why the majority of health insurances will not cover you to go to a nutritionalist to learn how to eat the right way, or to go to a bariatric physician to learn how to change your behavior, but they will go ahead all day long and pay for your gastric bypass, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just this disconnect that is actually occurring at that level. And so from my perspective, I think it's important that we recognize that there's a significant amount of people that are losing too much lean body mass
Right.
when they go ahead and go on semaglutide. And your lean body mass, that's your muscles, that's your
Mhm.
that's your healthiness. When you lose lean body mass, you got no health. And so it's important for us to, as I say, release the fluffy puffy stuff but maintain the muscularity that we want. And
Yes.
the condition of obesity is actually known in the bariatric society as a disease of the fat cells. So what that means is that the fat cells, which are so important for our healthiness because they provide all kinds of hormones, all kinds of chemicals that are part of our balance to create optimal health. And so there's nothing wrong with having fat cells, which is why I am against the idea that let's just kill them or get rid of them, because you're actually
Mhm.
pointing to your own aspect of who you are and saying, I was born dysfunctional, I was born with these fat cells and I don't want them. What's happening is your fat cells are sick. And so the intention here is, how do we create a therapy to create healthiness in your fat cells? How to get rid of the disease of your fat cells and make your fat cells healthy again. And that's the key. The
Right.
key is creating healthy fat cells. And if we can create healthy fat cells, then yes, we're going to get rid of the fluffy, puffy stuff, because those fat cells are going to shrink. They're going to release all the chemicals. They're going to release all the toxins. They're going to release all that stored energy that's in there. And they're going to be able to be vibrant, healthy, and support you to have optimal health. If we lose our muscle mass, we're losing our healthiness. And just take a look at an individual that is 80 years of age towards the end of life type of perspective. They have no lean body mass.
Right.
They've lost all their muscle mass, which is why they're no longer able to walk from point A to point B, to pick things up, to do things for themselves. Because one of the problems in our geriatric society is that they literally ultimately end up dying of no energy.
Right. Yeah, it's unbelievable. And when you see people that are eating healthier and they're exercising, we have a neighbor here that's 82 that runs circles around me.
Yeah,
And he looks like he's going to live till he's 110, I guarantee it,
absolutely.
because of that whole lifestyle, the way that we live, the way that we eat, the way that we think, and the way that we take care of our bodies is so important.
Obesity is a imbalance, a metabolic imbalance.
Mhm.
And so it didn't just happen because you ate too much and you didn't exercise. You actually create a dysfunction in the in the cells in your body. And
Mhm.
so one of the primary areas that we target is the gut health. So we're actually looking at the gastric biome.
Mhm.
And it's been studied and shown that when we eat a lot of dysfunctional foods, when we end up taking a lot of these PPIs, which are like the Prilosec of the world, because who doesn't have reflux, right? Because they're eating all these functional foods, so they
Mhm.
get reflux. So then they take an easy fix and say, okay, I'll take a Prilosec every day. What that happens is you change the pH of your gut. When you change the pH of your gut, the healthy bacteria can no longer live in your gut. So you get dysfunctional bacteria that love pasta, that love bread, that
Mm.
love sweets, that love sugar, that begins to take over. Now that type of bacteria cannot create healthiness. So our program addresses
Gut health.
primarily gut health. So we basically optimize your gut health so that your body can begin to have the healthy bacteria that can help you repair quickly, release weight more effectively, and be able to have an ability to think more clearly.
Mm.
We focus on optimizing your brain because most people are in a fight or flight response. So they're typically eating because they're anxious, eating because they're angry, eating because they're frustrated, they're not sleeping well. And so, how do we stop that fight or flight response from the limbic brain, which is our most ancient part of our brain? Well, we need to focus on changing the energy from going to the limbic brain to the neocortex. What does that? Omega fish oils. So we
Mhm.
utilize high doses of clean omega fish oils to optimize your neocortex, which is the most advanced part of your brain that allows you to dream your reality into becoming. And we're waking up the stem cells. We focus on the
Mm.
mitochondria health because at the end of the day, if your engines in every single cell are not producing adequate amounts of ATP, you're going to feel tired. You're not going to release the weight. You're going to have aches and pains. You're going to have all kinds of conditions. So we utilize CoQ10 as a primary fuel to begin to stimulate that. We utilize vitamin D to optimize your immune system and optimize your thyroid function. So there's a composition of about 6 different supplements that we use to help decrease inflammation. We use good doses of polyphenols to decrease inflammation. Polyphenols are the chemicals inside the green kingdom. And
Mhm.
those polyphenols help decrease oxidation in our body, which is what ends up ultimately creating disease. So,
Mhm.
in our obesity treatment, we're not just focusing on don't eat this, eat that. we're actually focusing on getting your body back to balance. Why? Because if we can get your body back to balance, your body knows how to heal itself. It's got the wisdom
Mhm.
of, look at this. We have no robot can do what we can do. We are a miracle walking.
Yeah.
And so if we give the body what it needs, the body will heal itself. And
Yeah.
that's the key to the optimization protocols that we have.
And I would think no matter what age, right?
No matter what
You can
age, no
always
matter what age,
reverse,
you can always
body,
reverse.
what's going on in your
Absolutely.
body. Being in the beauty and wellness industry, I know all about a lot of treatments, and I know for many experts have told me Cool Sculpt is something that it will burn the fat, but what happens is it kills those healthy cells. So if you gain a little weight a few years from now, it won't go there. It'll go in other places of your body, and you'll look very strange and distorted. So, but the form nouvelle, is that how you
Yes.
pronounce it? That you have, I find is fascinating, and I love that you've added this treatment to your practice as another tool.
Again, it's a holistic approach
Hmm.
to your healthiness, right? So the cool sculpting technologies of the day are basically marketing the fact that fat cells are horrible, you shouldn't have any, let's kill them. Okay, liposuction is like, hey, let's just suck them out so you don't have them anymore.
Very traumatic
They
to your
do
body.
have a condition that basically, even if you don't eat and then no longer have the fat cells, as you said, and they have to grow someplace else, they have a condition where even if you don't eat, your body all of a sudden feels like, oh my God, you took something that was mine, that was part of my whole. So the body tries to recreate it. Okay. And it's a paradoxical recreation of these fat cells. And so all of a sudden, in those individuals that have had cool sculpting, and you can take a look at it. There's been a significant amount of lawsuits to the cool sculpting of the world because people went in there to help themselves improve their appearance. And all of a sudden, they had dysfunctional appearance because they had globs of fat in parts of the body that they weren't supposed to be there. Well, that's
Hmm.
because the body compensates. If you take something away, the body's going to compensate. So the compensation is a dysfunctional aspect that could happen. The approach that we have utilizing, which I call form novel because it's a more of a therapeutic approach, but it utilizes a technology which is called emerald. It's an emerald laser, and this emerald laser it uses a low level frequency of green light. It doesn't burn you. It doesn't use heat. It just uses photons. Now remember that every single cell in our body is producing energy and is producing photons. So we are literally energy beings. We just don't think of ourselves that way. But this particular technology goes right into the area where you have excess weight. As you it goes right through the skin, and then when it finds a fat cell, in other words, that frequency is specific for fat cells, it basically makes microscopic little pores. Now the fat cells have, imagine if you punctured a balloon that it's in gore, all of a sudden all the air comes out. Now you have a fat cell that has released is dysfunctional material, and then the fat cell itself will heal those microscopic pores within 5 days. So now you have this shrinkage that release all the dysfunctional material from the fat cell. And now what you created is a healthy fat cell because the fat cell itself healed those pores, and now it's ready to help you achieve the healthiness. So it's a very effective treatment. The studies have shown that in 8 treatments, an individual can lose 6 inches. Okay,
Wow.
that's without changing diet or exercise. In other words, this was FDA approved.
Mm.
And in order for it to be FDA approved, they did what's called double blind studies. So they use sham technology in a laser versus the real technology in another laser that looked the same. The sham technology that they use is the red light or just a green light. Okay, so they
Right.
utilize that technology versus the actual low level laser. So the doctors didn't know, the patient didn't know. That's what it means to be double blinded. And
Got
it
it.
was done in multiple centers. And at the end of the day, they realized that individuals who actually had the appropriate technology, they released an average of 6 inches in 8 weeks without having changed their diet or exercise. Now imagine what we can do if
Wow.
you actually begin to change adjustments in your diet and exercise, your lifestyle. Of course, this technology, I don't think it fixes the problem,
No.
but it facilitates a process by which we can release a lot more effectively. Now, if we're going to maintain that
Right.
release of 6 inches, hopefully we're changing our lifestyle.
Right.
Otherwise, it's going to last a couple of months. And then if you're going to go back to eating dysfunctional and eating and drinking and taking dysfunctional medications, then eventually you're going to go back to where you were before. But if you actually take advantage of that technology and change your lifestyle, which is where our focus is in my practice, then the results that we're seeing are 12 inches, 10 inches, 8 inches. So we're
Wow.
seeing significant amounts of good success in individuals that need to release those 8 or 12 inches. Because if somebody just has a little bit of love handles, it'll definitely get rid of them, but that's not going to be a 12-inch release.
Right.
In other words, it just targets the excess fat cells. It doesn't really make you become something that you're not.
Right. Right. And I know for like a lot of women underneath the arm
Yes.
area,
Or
problem
the chin,
areas,
the
or
chin,
yeah, double
the
chin.
double chin,
Oh.
because it
Oh.
basically it's made of fat.
Mm-hmm.
We have done a lot of wings, they call
Right.
it,
Yep. Bat wings.
dead wings,
Yeah.
because it just targets
Tummy.
those fat cells, the tummy. We've also have done some breast reductions because breasts are made of fat, and so it's a very simple, and it
Oh.
has no side effects. You can basically Google the Emerald Laser, which is made by
Mm-hmm.
Erconia,
Mm-hmm.
Erchonia, and you can take a look to see what the FDA says, and you'll see that there's no side effects. When you're doing that, take a look at Cool Sculpting. Cool Sculpting has never been approved for obesity, has only been
Mm.
approved for individuals with a BMI of 30 or less. And it's only to improve the appearance,
Right.
as opposed to this particular technology has been approved for BMIs of up to 40.
Wow.
This
So
is
it's,
an obesity treatment.
yes, and targeting, and it tightens the skin. So
And
if
it tightens the skin
because if
because
you're
it's
losing the weight, I always worry about that laxicity, but
yeah,
this tightens it.
because of collagen factors that it stimulates. And again, it's working with photons that stimulate the mitochondria so you can produce a more effective outcome, because you're really communicating with the body in the way that the body receives as a communication. And the other aspect, which is almost miraculous, if you treat one side of the body, don't be surprised if you end up releasing some here and some there in other parts of the body,
Oh,
because remember, the fat cells are one organ system and they communicate with one another. Okay,
interesting.
so we have the intelligence in every single cell to literally create humans, right? In other words, each cell has the wisdom of the ages already in it. So
Mm.
the fat cells, as an organ system, communicate with one another. So if you treat one area, it's already communicating with the other fat cells and the rest of the system, and you'll begin to see improvement in other areas as well.
It's just fantastic that there's an option now that's a safe and healthy
Yes,
option.
yes,
And
totally.
all of these tools that you have in your practices, and you have 3 different locations. Um, However, you also are now doing telehealth, correct?
Yes,
So if
yes.
you're watching this outside of the Tampa Bay area, Dr. Laura's offices are in St. Pete, Clearwater, and Dunedin.
Well, it's basically St. Pete and Dunedin, which are my two lifestyle centers. And
Okay.
then my energy center, where we focus with Qigong, Tai Chi, shamanic healings, and other types of energy medicine, bringing attention to our energy fields and how do we begin to shift it using
Oh,
crystals
great.
and utilizing what I call ancient technologies that have now
Mhm.
begin to be proven by the quantum field and the new science that we are all now able to understand.
Go to your website, which we will have a link right here for you all. And I will also have it here on the screen that you can go to the website and you can book
Yes,
a telehealth call with you.
absolutely. If I can help you personally, wonderful. But
Mhm.
this information is not something I invented. It's something that has been there for many, many years. I'm just helping you remember because you yourself know it. I'm not here to do anything more than stimulate your ability to improve yourself and become the best aspects of yourself, or
That's right. That's why I absolutely adore him so much, is because you're really, I mean, you honestly, from your heart and soul, want to help inspire people to live healthier lives and educate and, provide the tools, and you decide what you want to do from there. Thank you so much for your
Thank you.
time
Thank you.
today.
Thank you.
We're going to do this again real soon because there's so much more to talk about.
Thank you. And blessings to everyone. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. This is your moment to achieve healthy weight for life.
I want to take a moment to thank our sponsor, Caronique, for thicker, fuller hair at every age and every stage of a woman's life. I hope you enjoyed the show, and if you did, please feel free to share with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And if you'd like to receive my free beauty and wellness gifts, just go to my website, michellephillips.com. I also invite you to join my social media community on Facebook and Instagram, Michelle Phillips Beauty.